Very good morning, students. In the last class, we have discussed about the different types of ecological pyramids. And in today's class, we are going to discuss about a small topic, decomposition, followed by the biogeochemical cycle. Okay. I think the word decomposition is familiar to you all because in the 11th standard we have discussed about the earthworm and how the earthworm is involved in the conversion of organic waste into a valuable compost. Yeah. So you have some idea about the decomposition. So what is the definition of decomposition? It is the it is the process in which the detritus, the meaning of the detritus means which is including the dead plants, animals and the etc. These only called as the detritus. Okay. So the breakdown of such detritus component into simple organic matter by the decomposers. Who are all called decomposers? The bacteria, fungi, and many number of saprophytic fungi are involved in the decomposing process. So that microorganism only called the decomposer. So what is the definition of the decomposition? It is a process in which the detritus organic matters are break down into simple organic matter. That is only called as the decomposition. What is the uses of decomposition? The decomposition is useful for the recycling as well as the balancing the nutrient in the ecosystem. These are the two important things are done by the decomposition. Okay. Now we move on to the nature of decomposition. Or you can write near the nature of decomposition, you can write speed of decomposition. Usually the process of decomposition is varies. அது வந்து வேரிஸ் ஆகிட்டே இருக்கும். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இன் கேஸ் ஆஃப் காம்பவுண்ட்ஸ் லைக் carbohydrate, fat and some of the proteins are decomposed very rapidly. Carbohydrate, proteins and some other compounds are decomposed very rapidly when compared with the substance like cellulose, lignin and chitin. So this is only about the nature of decomposition, and now we move on to the mechanism of decomposition. It may be asked you in the 5-mark question. Chances are there, or they may be asked only the headings of decomposition in the 3-mark question. Okay. Okay, now move on to the mechanism of decomposition. Usually the decomposition takes place by the several steps. That steps only we are going to discuss now. The first step is the fragmentation. Fragmentation means the separation of smaller particles. That is only called the fragmentation. So here what is happening in the fragmentation process? The detritus, I already told you, detritus means the dead and decay organism. So the detritus particles into smaller particles. Usually the detritus particles are large in size. So the breakdown of detritus components into smaller particles by the detrivorous bacteria, fungi and earthworm is called as the fragmentation. So how this fragmentation takes place? How these detrivorous are doing such type of fragmentation? Because the detrivorous are secrete some important substance. That particular substance are enhance the fragmentation process. So So that is about the fragmentation. And coming to the second step of decomposition is the catabolism. So what is happening in the catabolism? The complex molecules are converted into simple component. That is only called the catabolism. In the digestive system also we have discussed the same definition, isn't it? Catabolism. So here also what is happening in the catabolism, the decomposers including bacteria and fungi which is produce some enzymes. They are called as extracellular enzymes. These enzymes are break down the complex organic as well as the inorganic compound into simple organic and inorganic compound. So easily we can define the catabolism means the conversion of the complex organic and inorganic compounds into simple inorganic and organic compound. That particular process only called the catabolism. So fragmentation is the first step in the decomposition process followed by the catabolism. After the catabolism, the next step which is including the leaching. Actually, leaching takes place from the downward. That's why they are given here the movement of decomposed substance which is including organic and inorganic compound from the surface to the lower layer of the soil. மேலே இருந்து கீழே என்ன பண்ணுது, அந்த decomposed substance வந்து மூவ் ஆகுது. So the movement of the decomposed substance from the surface to the lower layer of the soil, that particular process only called as the leaching. That particular process only called as the leaching. So as a result of the leaching, there is a formation of the humus in the next process, that is called the humification. So once the organic wastes are converted into the leaching process, that particular organic waste are converted into dark colored substance. Dark colored amorphous substance called the humus. Usually the humus are contain rich organic compounds which contain all the nutrient for the growth of plants. So that is the important characteristics of humus. So we can say the humus rich soils have the ability to produce more plant when compared with the humus less soil. So that is about the humus. So humification is a process where the detritus materials which is turns into a dark color substance, that is only called as the humus. So formation of the humus, that process is called the humification. Finally, the last step of the decomposition is the mineralization. It means some of the microbes which is release some of the inorganic nutrient from the humus. இந்த ஹியூமஸில் வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா நிறைய வந்து மைக்ரோ ஆர்கானிசம் இருக்கும், யூஸ்ஃபுல் மைக்ரோ ஆர்கானிசம். That microorganisms are release some inorganic nutrient. That particular inorganic nutrient contain lot of minerals. So the particular soil is getting minerals by the particular microbes in the humus. So such process, such formation of minerals, part of nutrient from the microbe is called as the mineralization. So these are all the different steps involved in the decomposition process. Okay. So if it is asked in the 5 mark, you can write about all the 5 steps. Okay. So that's all about the decomposition. And now we discuss what are the important factors are affecting the decomposition. Some of the factors are induce the decomposition, but some factors are decreasing the process of decomposition. So what are the important factors The climatic factors including temperature, soil moisture, pH are all some of the important factors which is affecting the decomposition. Changes in such climatic factors leads to decreasing the decomposition or maybe increasing the decomposition. Whatever may be happen by these particular factors. So that's all about the decomposition. ஸோ ஒரு சின்ன டாபிக் வந்து முடிச்சாச்சு. அடுத்து நம்ம பார்க்க போகிற நெக்ஸ்ட் டாபிக் that is called as the biogeochemical cycle. You might have studied about this biogeochemical cycle topic in your lower classes, especially in your 9th standard, I think so. In your 9th standard, you might have studied about the biogeochemical cycle. The biogeochemical cycle is otherwise called as the nutrient cycle. இதுக்கு nutrient cycle அப்படின்னு வந்து அதுக்கு ஒரு பேர் இருக்குது. சரி. Now coming to the definition of biogeochemical cycle. இங்கே வந்து ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகுது. So what is the definition of biogeochemical cycle? The circulation of nutrient within the ecosystem. The circulation of the nutrients within the ecosystem. Such nutrient cycle is called the biogeochemical cycle. Why it is called biogeo? It means the cycles involves both the biological reaction as well as the chemical reaction. That's why the cycle is called as the biogeochemical cycles. Usually the biogeochemical cycles are occurs in the two types. There are two types of biogeochemical cycle. Number one is gaseous cycle and another cycle is called the sedimentary cycle. Gaseous cycles include the cycling movement of gases like oxygen, carbon and nitrogen, whereas sedimentary cycles including the substance like phosphorus, sulfur, calcium, etc. Because these are all what? These are all the sediments of the earth. That's why these particular cycles are called the sedimentary cycle. Okay. In this topic, they are explaining only about one cycle from each. From the gaseous cycles, we are going to learn about the carbon cycle. In the sedimentary cycle, we are going to learn about the phosphorus cycle. Okay, first we are going to discuss about the carbon cycle. So in the carbon cycle, what we are going to learn first, how the carbons are carbon is called as the carbon dioxide. It is present in the form of oxides, carbon dioxide, isn't it? So what we are going to discuss now, how the carbon dioxides are evolved from the earth and how they are reached the atmosphere. எப்படி வந்து அது அட்மாஸ்பியருக்கு வந்து இந்த கார்பன் டை ஆக்சைடு போகுது அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்த பிக்சரை பார்க்கும்போதே உங்களுக்கு தெரியும். ஃப்ரம் த பிக்சர் இட் செல்ஃப் you can easily understand by what way the carbon dioxide is reaching the atmosphere. For example, here they are given some of the process like combustion. Combustion takes place in the industries, isn't it? When the industries are producing the petroleum and petroleum related products, more amount of carbon dioxides are released. And like that way, the combustion of the fossil fuels in the vehicles, isn't it? When the vehicles are driven by the human being, the vehicles are released the carbon dioxide. So that carbon dioxide also reach the atmosphere. And in what other way? From the respiration, you can see here, from the respiration of aquatic animal, respiration of land animals. They are given the picture deer, isn't it? அங்கே வந்து deer கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. So when the deer is doing the respiration, it is releasing the carbon dioxide. So like that way, when the fishes are respire, it is also releasing the carbon dioxide. And by the process of respiration by the plants, look at here, the plants during the respiration, they are also releasing the carbon dioxide. So by such ways, the carbon dioxides are released from the terrestrial and aquatic environment into the atmosphere. But in what way the atmospheric carbon dioxide is reached the earth? This is only called the cycling movement, isn't it? From the earth to the atmosphere, from the atmosphere to the earth. So cycling of the carbon dioxide between the earth and atmosphere, that is only called the carbon cycle. So in what way the carbon dioxide is reaching the earth surface from the atmosphere அப்படின்னு பார்க்கும்போது by the process of photosynthesis, because the plants are taking the carbon dioxide during the photosynthesis. So the carbon dioxide is reaching the plant from the atmosphere during the photosynthesis. And also by the process of the dead and decay organism, by the process of decomposition also the carbon dioxide is enters into the terrestrial environment. By the process of what we can say, another example they are given, yes. So by that way only the carbon dioxide is reaching the terrestrial, அதாவது எர்த் சர்ஃபேஸ். ஸோ மேலேருந்து கீழே வரக்கூடிய கார்பன் டை ஆக்சைடு வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஓன்லி மெஜாரிட்லி த்ரூ த photosynthesis by the plant, because during the photosynthesis only the plants are taking more amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. That's why we are advised to grow the plants in order to control the greenhouse effect. இல்லையா, குளோபல் வார்மிங் வர்றதுக்கு முக்கியமான காரணமே இது கார்பன் டை ஆக்சைடு இல்லையா. ஸோ இன் ஆர்டர் டு கண்ட்ரோல் த கார்பன் டை ஆக்சைடு கண்டென்ட் we need to grow plants. So that is about the carbon cycle. And coming to the next type of cycle, sedimentary cycle, which is including the phosphorus cycle. You know very well the phosphorus is found in the biomolecules. நம்ம 11th வந்து biomolecules ஒரு சாப்டர் படிச்சிருப்போம். அதில் வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா டிஎன்ஏ, ஆர்என்ஏ இதிலலாம் வந்து எஸ்பெஷலி ஏடிபி இதிலலாம் வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா இந்த பாஸ்பரஸ் வந்து என்ன பண்ணியிருக்கோம், ப்ரெசண்ட்டாக இருக்கும். ஸோ த பாஸ்பரஸ் ஆர் a major component presence in the biomolecules. Talking about the availability, the phosphorus is not abundant in the biosphere, whereas it is present in the rock deposits, marine sediment and guano. இந்த மாதிரி இடத்துல தான் வந்து பாஸ்பரஸ் வந்து அதிகமாக ப்ரெசண்ட்டாக இருக்கும். குவானோனா என்னென்னு தெரியுங்களா உங்களுக்கு? குவானோ மீன்ஸ் இட் இஸ் எ எக்ஸ்க்ரீட்டா ஆஃப் த பேர்ட்ஸ். ஒரு சில இடத்துலலாம் வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா பேர்ட்ஸ் வந்து அதிகமாக இருக்கும். அந்த பேர்ட்ஸ் என்ன செய்யும், எக்ஸ்க்ரீட்டா வந்து போட்டுக்கிட்டே இருக்கும். தட் எக்ஸ்க்ரீட்டா which is occupy a particular place and they become the guano. Usually the guano is rich in the phosphorus. So that's why the talking about the availability, the phosphorus is not abundant in the biosphere, but it is very abundant in the rock deposits, marine sediment and the guano. Then how the phosphorus will be released from these sediments? By the process of the weathering. நீங்கள் படிச்சிருப்பீங்க, weathering is the process of releasing of the phosphorus from the rock and other sediment. That particular term only known as the phosphorus. Okay, so அதான் இங்கே கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. So once the weathering process takes place, I told you know weathering. Once the weathering process, weathering of the rock or weathering of the marine sediment takes place, the phosphorus enters into the lithosphere and hydrosphere. Hydrosphere means water இல்லையா. அப்போ வாட்டருக்குள்ளேயும் சாயில்குள்ளேயும் என்ன பண்ண ஆரம்பிக்குது, lithosphere means soil and soil related things. The phosphorus is enter into the lithosphere and hydrosphere. Then the producers are absorb the phosphorus. Producersனா யார், plants இல்லையா. When the lithospheres are accumulated with the phosphorus, the plants which is grows on the lithosphere will started to absorb the phosphorus. Then the phosphorus is transferred. நம்ம food chain படிச்சோம் இல்லையா. The producers will be taken by the primary consumer. So the phosphorus from the producer will be transferred into the என்னது primary consumer. So it is enter into the food chain as well as into the various trophic level. Finally, the death of the organism and the degradation of the decomposers, the phosphorus is again released back into the lithosphere as well as hydrosphere. So by that way, the phosphorus is cycling back into the environment. So this is about the phosphorus cycle. So we have 10 minutes more for 30 minutes. So we can complete another small topic, that is types of ecosystem. So hope you all understand about the biogeochemical cycle. Two cycles we have discussed. One is carbon cycle and another one is the phosphorus cycle. Now we move on to the new topic called the types of ecosystem. There are different types of ecosystems are there. The ecosystems are broadly classified into two types. One is natural, another one is artificial. Artificial, or we can say man-made ecosystem. Talking about the natural ecosystem, it is divided into two major types. One is terrestrial, another one is aquatic. Talking about the aquatic, it is further divided into freshwater and marine water. So these are all the different types of ecosystem. So among the ecosystem, we are going to discuss about the aquatic ecosystem. அதை பற்றி தான் நம்ம இதில் பார்க்க போகிறோம். அதுலேயும் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஃபஸ்ட் டைப் ஆஃப் ecosystem what we are going to discuss is the freshwater ecosystem. அந்த freshwater ecosystemத்தில் we are going to discuss about the pond ecosystem. ஏன்னா வந்து இதில் எல்லா ecosystem பற்றி படித்தா வந்து இங்கே pages வந்து பத்தாது, portions will become more. So they are explained only about the pond ecosystem. அதை பற்றி தான் நம்ம என்ன பண்ண போகிறோம், பார்க்க போகிறோம். அதை கொடுத்துருக்காங்க பாருங்கள், only the pond ecosystems are detailed below. சரி, இப்போ ஒரு பாண்ட், இப்போ இங்கே பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு பியூட்டிஃபுல் பிக்சர் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. ஹியர் தே ஆர் ஷோயிங் த ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் ஆஃப் பாண்ட் ecosystem. என்னென்னலாம் வந்து ஃபேக்டர்ஸ் வந்து இருக்குது. வாட் ஆர் த ஃபேக்டர்ஸ் ஆர் சரௌண்டிங் த பாண்ட் ecosystem. ஐ ஆல்ரெடி டோல்ட் யூ, ஒரு ecosystem அப்படின்னு எடுத்துக்கிட்டால் the ecosystem is contained the two important part, biotic part and abiotic part. So like that way in the pond ecosystem also there is a two types of two part of things are there. One is biotic factor and abiotic factor. First நம்ம பார்க்க போகிறது, what are the abiotic components are present in the pond. சரியா, the abiotic components which is including the various dissolved gases like carbon dioxide, oxygen, you know very well. In the aquatic ecosystem, the oxygen is the major gases which is useful for the respiration by the fishes, and also they contain many number of sedimentary elements like phosphate. Just now we have discussed about the phosphate cycle, isn't it? So these are all the some important abiotic component. Other than these gases, what are the other climatic factors which is including the light, temperature? These are also some important climatic factor which is comes under the abiotic component which is present surround the pond eco. ஒரு பாண்டை சுற்றி வந்து லைட்டு, டெம்பரேச்சர் எல்லாமே இருக்கும் இல்லையா. இந்த பிக்சரில் கூட நீங்கள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா you can see the sun. The sun is provided two things. One is the light as well as it is give the temperature, isn't it? So these are all some of the abiotic component which is surrounds the pond. Now coming to the what are the biotic components are present in the pond ecosystem. இந்த பிக்சரே கொடுத்துருப்பாங்க. பாண்ட் ecosystemல வந்து என்னென்ன டிராஃபிக் லெவலில் என்னென்ன மைக்ரோ ஆர்கானிசம், என்னென்ன மேக்ரோ ஆர்கானிசம் இருக்குது அப்படின்றத கொடுத்துருப்பாங்க. அதுதான் நம்ம இங்கே பார்க்க போகிறோம். ஃபஸ்ட்டு வந்து ப்ரொடியூசர்ஸ் தான் வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஃபஸ்ட்டு இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் பயோட்டிக் காம்பவுண்ட் இல்லையா. ப்ரொடியூசர்ஸ்னால் என்னது, விச் இஸ் இன்க்ளூடிங் த மைக்ரோஸ்கோபிக் அனிமல்ஸ் மைக்ரோஸ்கோபிக் பிளான்ட்ஸ் which is including the phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktonsனாவே என்னது, மைக்ரோஸ்கோபிக் plant which is including Acetaloria, Anabina, Volvox. These are all some of the என்னது phytoplanktons and some of the floating hydrophytes. which is including azolla, salvia, pistia. These are all the floating hydrophytes. So these microscopic as well as macroscopic plants are called as the producers. Okay, what they are produced? They produce energy-rich compound called the starch. Okay, and coming to the next biotic compound, which is called the consumer. The producers will be taken by the consumer, isn't it? So, usually the consumers are here, which is including the zooplankton. Zooplankton and a microscopic animal. We cannot see by our naked eye, but when you take the water from the pond and keep it under the microscope and you see that there is some floating of some microscopic animals. They are called as the zooplanktons, which is including paramecium, delphinia. இதெல்லாம் வந்து என்ன செய்யும் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, which is feeds on the என்னது phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons வந்து சாப்பிட்றது வந்து இது zooplankton. So we can say it is a primary consumer. Then the primary consumer will be taken by some of the bottom living animals like molluscus and annelids. And it will be taken by the carnivores, which is including the tertiary consumer, and duck, crane, and some of the birds are considered as the top carnivore. So these are all the consumer which is present in the pond, which is depends on the producers. So this is about the consumer. இந்த பிக்சரில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா கூட உங்களுக்கு ஆக்சுவலி இந்த பிக்சரில் வந்து they are not given about the pictures of duck, isn't it? Only they are given the brief, like the producers are including the plants followed by the consumers and decomposers. Decomposers are the final part of the pond ecosystem, isn't it? ஸோ கன்சியூமர் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. கன்சியூமருக்கு அடுத்தது வந்து அவங்க கொடுத்துருக்குறது வந்து என்னது decomposers. The bottom of the plant, the bottom of the pond, which is contain the micro consumer. The micro consumers is also called as the decomposers, isn't it? So usually the decomposers are including the bacteria, fungi. இதெல்லாம் வந்து என்னது decomposers. இப்போ தான் நம்ம வந்து decomposition பற்றி படித்தோம் இல்லையா? detritus components called the decomposing products. அதை டீகம்போஸ் பண்ணக்கூடியது வந்து decomposers இல்லையா? So that is only about the decomposer. So these are all the three important component of the pond ecosystem. ஒருவேளை வந்து 5 மார்க்கில் ரைட் a short note on, இல்லை 3 மார்க்கில் வந்து ரைட் a short note on pond ecosystem அப்படின்னு கேட்டாங்கன்னா you have to explain about this thing. First one, you have to explain about abiotic compound, then biotic compounds, which is including producers, consumers, and decomposers. You have to explain about this. Okay. Finally, இன்னும் 2 minutes இருக்குது, முடிச்சிடலாம். Stratification of pond ecosystem அப்படின்னா ஒன்றும் கிடையாது. இந்த பாண்டை வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா 3 ஜோன்ஸாக வந்து பிரிக்கிறாங்க. ஸ்ட்ராட்டிஃபிகேஷன் அது என்னென்ன ஜோன் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா லிட்டோரல் ஜோன், லிம்னட்டிக் ஜோன் அண்ட் ப்ரோஃபண்டல் ஜோன். இது என்ன அப்படின்றத மட்டும் ஷார்ட்டாக சொல்லிடுறேன். இந்த லிட்டோரல் ஜோன் அப்படின்னா என்னென்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா மேலே இருக்கக்கூடிய ஜோன். இந்த லிட்டோரல் ஜோனும் இந்த லிம்னட்டிக் ஜோனும் ரெண்டுமே வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா விச் கேன் டேக் குட் அமௌண்ட் ஆஃப் சன்லைட்டை வந்து ஈஸியாக பெனிட்ரேட் பண்ணக்கூடிய ஒரு ஜோன் தான் வந்து இந்த 2 ஜோன், லிட்டோரல் ஜோன் அண்டு லிம்னட்டிக் ஜோன். இது வந்து பாண்டில் இருக்கக்கூடிய 2 இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் ஜோன், அப்பர் பார்ட்டில் இருக்கக்கூடிய ஜோன். whereas the profundal zone, which is present in the deepest part of the pond, which cannot receive the sunlight properly. இந்த இடத்துல வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா சன்லைட் வந்து என்ன செய்யாது, ப்ராப்பராக வந்து இருக்காது. that's why the particular zone which is called as the என்னது, the zone is called as the profundal zone. The particular zone is called as the profundal zone. சரியா, அதான் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. ப்ரோஃபண்டல் ஜோனில் வந்து என்ன இருக்காது, இந்த இடத்துல வந்து லைட் பெனிட்ரேஷன் வந்து ரொம்ப கம்மியாக இருக்கும். ஸோ அதுதான் வந்து இங்கே எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க, வேறு ஒன்றும் கிடையாது. ஒருவேளை வந்து ஸ்ட்ராட்டிஃபிகேஷன் ஆஃப் பாண்ட் ஈகோசிஸ்டம் மோஸ்ட்லி கேட்க மாட்டாங்க. ஒருவேளை வந்து 3 zones ஆஃப் பாண்ட் அப்படின்னு கேட்டாங்கன்னா யூ ஹாவ் டு எக்ஸ்பிளைன் அபவுட் these 3 zones: littoral, limnatic and profundal zone. Usually the profundal zones are called the benthic zone. அதை வந்து மறந்துடாதீங்க, சரியா? ஸோ தட்ஸ் ஆல் அபவுட் த stratification of the pond. So that's all about the today's class. So 30 minutes are reached. ஸோ நல்லா படிங்க இந்த கிளாஸில் நடத்துனதை வந்து, சரியா? See you in the next class. Thank you.